Okay, I think we are ready to start for today. Thank you for being here as always, Connor. Right. I think we are, I know we are nearing the end of the Destiny book that I had explicitly planned or marked as good for reading. So trust me when I say everything else would have been worse. And I'm not really sure what to do after this. But for today is the singular exegete. And we can Google what exegete means. A person who interprets text, especially scripture. Which is indicative of what this lore book contains. They are interpretations somehow of some kind of scripture. Let me do this. Yes. I don't remember too much about it, but it was on my good enough to read list, so I am hoping that they are indeed good enough to read. Without further ado, I think we should just start. So, the singular exegete. Protected. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. Reference obvious. The enemy insinuates that we are hobbled by the Traveler's protection, denied our full potential. This is expected. Our foe comprehends only violence and its beauty. Personal notes, scratched in hive leather with a flake of Ionian stone. The tired insinuation that protection is weakness. I expected more from our great foe. When we hunted the first trespasser on the moon, I discovered the journal of a Golden Age commander. Quang Xuan had faith and training. Still, the darkness seduced her, and this is the insidious power that turned her against her god. I'm learning to cook. I salvaged a hot plate back on the moon. It was vacuum welded to the countertop, and I had to cut it free. My hands ache, but they are steadier. Cousin Asher, you would find the concept of vacuum welding upsetting. Press two sheets of metal together in void, and their atoms cannot tell which sheet they belong to. They cross freely, the two become one. I sleep beside an intruding pyramid. I am deep in its shadow, back in the tower beneath the traveler. Could they understand how I am vacuum welded to the enemy? Ikora would understand. She studied the Taken with me despite the risks, and Zavala values foresight. But he also fears the next Lysander, the next Toland, the next Rezel Azir. He fears what I could teach his guardians. He is weary of being the one to say no when all his guardians shout yes, yes. But it is his duty, and he loves when duty hurts. Forceful, angled cuts. I am afraid that if I go on, I will lose everything I have regained, all my peace, all my trusts, all my hopes. And I will even destroy my dear friend who fights where I cannot. A blank space. I need to make a walk. I'm going to take an ankle grinder to the rotor disc from an old rover. I must find cooking oil to season it. I will search through Cousin's old caches tomorrow. Tonight I cook fried rice. Rice and raisins will come from my stores. The recipe calls for pineapple. Is this a joke? A pine-flavored apple? I will substitute breadfruit if I can find it. Eggshell. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. The bird cannot fly until it leaves the eggshell. The enemy continues to suggest that we must abandon the traveler. This is a good sign. It would not need to entice us if it could destroy us without effort. Personal notes scored in hive leather with a knife. Tidal volcanism and Jupiter's plasma breath made Io into a treasure trove of chemistry for the traveler's work. A good walk must be seasoned in the same way. I am heating it with sunflower oil from Cousin Asher's cache. There were many fine things, all untouched. He denies himself. I ache from the hike. Ikora says I am full of hairline fractures and deep muscle trauma. I never noticed until other pains had healed. The illusions of recovery. One pain obscures another. There is danger in this traffic for the pyramid. Quang Xuan's logs make that plain. But I must continue. I must continue. What worth have I ever been, except that I know the enemy? More worth, Mara would remind me. I am more than my uses. So, what bird would we become if we left the traveler behind? There are obvious examples. We might survive as raiders on the edge. We might abandon our humanity for machines. We might rise up in war and build an empire. Yet, none of these can be the answer. Fallen, Vex, Cabal, and Hive all covet the traveler. They have not left it behind. If all things beyond the traveler's protection fall under the suzerainty of darkness, not because they serve it, but because they are obedient to its law, then to leave the traveler would be to join the enemy. There would be no other way. Even so, I am proof otherwise. I move between. There is not only grey between black and white. All the colors are there. And am I not necessary? I would be lost without those who led me back to the light. But if I had not been there to guide them down into darkness, they would all be dead. Who would we become if we were all like Erismore? Ah, my walk is on fire. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. The color white exists as a symbol of uniformity, sterility, and sameness. In light, there is only death. The same message VIP number 2014 received in the lunar pyramid. Again, uninteresting. Personal notes, scored in hive leather with a knife. I do not believe the darkness has returned to destroy the traveler. Surely it could have done that while the traveler was maimed and stranded. Why wait for a sign that the light had returned to its strength? Perhaps the darkness has returned for us. Guardians are the traveler's final memorial. We are its selfless legacy and last argument. The color white, stasis, blankness, bone, flag of truce. This is an opportunity. We must do as we did before. Encounter the enemy's power, learn what we can, and report back. And if we return with nothing but beautiful and violent words, then we will study them as scripture and find some way to turn the enemy's power to our use, just as it wishes to turn us to its purpose. My rock is filthy with burnt oil. I need baking soda to clean it, but there is no Trona on Io. Instead, I bubbled carbon dioxide through sodium hydroxide. It burnt like hive blood, and retrieved enough soda to clean the rock. While I was scrubbing, a young guardian approached. She had an ancient name, Akkadian perhaps, or Sumerian. She said that she had heard of me, and she wanted to help me search for knowledge. I snapped at her to bring me a pineapple. I know I was cruel. Cusp. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. This is a threat. The enemy implies we are on the edge of a second collapse. There are intimations of a repeated mistake, an error we will make again. Perhaps it is a demand for surrender. Personal notes scratched in hive leather with a flake of Ionian stone. The collapse was a murder, a genocide. Why does the enemy imply it was our error? I was born long after the Golden Age, but I do feel loyalty to that time and compassion. Humanity thought it was immortal. So did I, once. What should we have learned from the collapse? That we are weak. Obvious and false. No. That we made errors in our defense. Our enemy is not a strategy instructor. No. That everything grown must die, hope is futile, etc. It's tiresome. Death may be inevitable, but life is worth fighting for, to protect and extend. No. That the traveler is using us for its own ends. Then why would it sacrifice itself? No. That the darkness is not our enemy, it is only the traveler's enemy. Does the enemy suggest we should have turned on the traveler during the collapse, cracked it like an egg? I see shades of the prisoner's dilemma that occupy Kuang Xuan. If traveler and humanity cooperate, both suffer. If humanity maims the traveler as it tries to flee, both are destroyed. But if the traveler chooses to help us and we turn against it, offer it to the enemy suggests this would have been our salvation. For now, I subsist on thick pemmican and vitamin paste. I crave fresh food. I must invite someone to share this meal I will someday cook. My palate is toughened. I will need a taster. Perhaps I should not have sent the Sumerian woman away. Gift. Personal notes scored in hive leather with a knife. Something new has blossomed in the cradle. A gift to reward my attention. It terrifies me, and the more afraid I am, the more I want to accept it. I came to learn from what I fear most. The more I am afraid, the more there is to learn. The shoot is a single silver branch with leaves like down. I think they are tiny feathers. Is it some thorn of Savathun's sent to bring disaster? No, I know it is not. That would be too simple. It is from the Black Pyramid. It was meant for me. I will let it grow and see if it bears fruit. It is true that I am watched by many guardians and doubted and mocked. But this is the price of connectedness. This is proof, no matter how bitter, that I am part of something larger. Others look to me for guidance, so I choose to be worthy of that trust. I choose to tell Zavala what I have found. I will even invite him to see it. Contrast. Report by VanguardNet Encrypted Router. Another rhetorical gambit. The enemy presents itself as part of a natural cycle. Like a stalking wolf, it simply obeys its nature. How can we hate it for that? Personal notes, scored in hive leather with a knife. There are jaded guardians, strangers to true loss, who claim that the traveler has ulterior motives and that darkness is a natural force. They worship grey. For them, the line between right and wrong is fine as silk and just as easy to cut. Fools. Evil is real, even in a world of grey. It must be named and fought, because left unchecked, it takes everything. Those who excuse and deny evil's existence are its greatest allies. Those who mistake its causes for moral justification are its favorite pawns. Yet the pyramid challenges me. Would not the light destroy the darkness, just as darkness would destroy the light? Why do we call a change evil, when it is natural and inevitable, like Earth's winters or the sun's swans? Because some changes must be resisted. If we did not prepare for winter, we would die in it. We would cease to exist. So now I find myself using the enemy's philosophy to justify my opposition to the enemy. A neat little trap. Is winter evil? It causes evil. It leads us into evil choices through scarcity and pain. But winter is the result of natural circumstance. Even if it had a mind, it could never choose to become an endless summer. It would always hurt us simply by being itself. Does that make it evil? And if we were to build shelters and weapons out of ice, would we become evil? Survival in winter requires wintercraft. Survival in darkness requires a new idea of good and evil, one that will not collapse into moral indifference, or we will all be dragons in the end. Yes. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. Alas, nothing meaningful emerged from our work this time, except vague affirmation. Perhaps I have misinterpreted the results. Personal notes, scored in hive leather with a knife. Yes. It approves of my interest. It encourages me. When darkness reaches for you, you should flinch away, but I do not. This approval excites me. Am I already in its power? Is this a declaration of triumph? When I was a guardian, I went on a dive to gather salvage from an ancient submarine. We plunged so deep that the air itself became intoxicating. Hypnotized by our own beauty, we stared into each other's helmets, drunk on our distance from the world. But when we surfaced, agony. I feel that depth pressing on me now. My fingers and my ears ache. The enemy's excitement terrifies me. It cannot give. It cannot be made to give. The fallen call it that astonishing ability to evade being robbed. It can only take. What could this yes mean, except that it has taken something from me? My course is set. I did not tell Zavala. I take this onto myself in the hope of helping others. A small space. The Sumerian woman returned at last. She found an arcology garden on Titan. On the manifest, pineapples. Pineapples are real. She is a power, this guardian, but there are many as bright or brighter. It is perseverance that makes the difference. We will see if this one perseveres. I sent her to bring me pineapple seeds. Her name is Anina. She has white, innocent eyes. I will not give up my work. Not until I have fried rice with pineapple and raisins. And not until I know exactly what is coming. Unborn. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. It preaches the philosophy of the books of sorrow, yours scriptures in the unveiled fragments. The traveler is a false creator, guarding its creations with false law. We are dead things made in the shape of the dead. The only true law is violent winnowing. Whatever cannot hold on to existence does not deserve to exist, and so forth. At least, it is consistent. Personal notes, scratched in hive leather with a flake of Ionian stone. The enemy suggests that our rebirth was an evil mistake. How Gnostic. They were a cult, a fleet, a school, a horde, who believed that the source of all suffering was not in our poor choices, but an error of the world's creator. A false, deluded god. Mara would laugh, or weep. Was my rebirth an evil? It is true that guardians reborn to face pain. We are endlessly besieged by a tortured cosmos. Secretly, I believe that most of us fall to exhaustion. Our ghosts love us and let us curl up inside to rest. My ghost Briya died to save me. If she were returned, would I want immortality again? I do fear immortality without choice. I would not want to go on as a prisoner in vexed glass or a spirit trapped in the sea of screams. But my life is not a prison or a trap. Deep cuts, full of stone dust. It is not. Purity. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. This logograph suggests purification through reduction, evolution, or sacrifice. It may draw an ironic comparison between the Taken and our own relationship to the Traveler. I am sure the idea that we are light Taken is a popular heresy, but the difference should be plain. We do not lose the capacity to choose. We make our own fate. Personal notes, scratched in hive leather with a flake of Ionian stone. The translation is not as clear as I suggested to Zavala. As I told my friend, purity is hardly pure of meaning. There are many interpretations. As a student of hive lore, purity makes me recall the final shape, that which remains when all that can be removed has been removed. But the hive are a skeletal cult of misery and reduction. The true enemy is rich with nuance. It challenges me. Why does the traveler strip us of our old identities? As a guardian, I never craved the past. Everything I cared for was in front of me. I could see my people, I could touch them, I could fight for them. But then I lost my ghost and the light. Trapped in the gunpowder tunnels of the disemboweled moon, I cursed the traveler. It left no childhood memories to comfort me, no parents or cherished friends waiting in the city, no one to whom I could devote my return. Just Ariana, Sai, Omar, and Val haunting me. Of course, I have never considered this before. There is a more generous interpretation of the traveler's amnesia. The traveler believes that if we are freed of our past wounds and fears, given power and a new start, we will choose to be good. We will abandon all lesser causes to defend humanity. We will choose others over ourselves. Perhaps this is why the traveler never speaks. Its voice is too loud to be anything but coercion. It waits, breathless, for us to make our own choice. A small space. Anina's ghost sent me a message. She found viable pineapple seeds in an archaeology vault. She wants me to grow them. Conviction. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. The enemy is convinced of the rightness of its cause. Uninteresting. Personal notes, scratched in hive leather with a flake of Ionian stone. I saw a strange ghost yesterday lurking among my supplies. Normally, they do not come this close, even when their guardians do. They fear possession by the pyramid. But this one had the air of a spy. The enemy warns me of great atrocities couched in valor, violence born from supreme conviction. This message is an extension of the camouflaged logograph, a warning against my own comrades. Sometimes death comes not from a disease but the body's immune reaction. Under pressure, oxygen becomes poison. Good things, Mara says, can make us sick. Zavala is not a martinet. He is a strategist. His guardians are all tacticians. They love when some grand new threat appears, but when it is defeated, they become restless, and they use their bold victories as proof that Zavala is a timid leader. But he is not swayed by the hot-blooded elite. He fears victory disease. What will happen when our mighty newborn guardians, accustomed to swift victory, meet a grinding, tedious foe? And he worries for the thousands and thousands of weaker light-bearers who rush after their heroes and die forever. No more ghosts are being created. We are pouring from a shallow cup. He would do anything to protect the last city. Such is his conviction. Would he kill me if he thought I was turned? I think it would wound him horribly, but he does love to be hurt by his duty. A small space. Anina returned with the pineapple seeds. Io does not support agriculture, so I made loam out of treated soil, asteroid powder, and a bacterial paste that looks like bouillon. I will plant the pineapple seeds in this little garden. I hope the roots are not too big. I have only a little room to grow. Petulant. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. A rebuke to Savathun for her interference. Perhaps she is jealous of our direct access to the pyramid. She led the hive to the darkness, but she has had aeons to regret that choice. Could we exploit this? Personal notes, scratched in hive leather with a flake of Ionian stone. I find the Guardian's collective study humiliating. Their channels are full of open speculation about me. Is she a hapless lackey of Queen Mara, an ancient proto-hive matron? And why did she offer to trade a bag of quartz-chipped data stores for a pound of breadfruit? Savathun, queen of all encrypts. Savathun, who has distorted these messages so badly that only the tenacious drifter can unscramble them. Why does the hive trickster want to prevent our contact with her god? Simplest answer, it is all a trick. You did exactly as I required, is her retort to any defeat. How could her plans be foiled when no one understands what they are? But would she dare defy the deep itself? Perhaps she would. Savathun's wretched existence is bound to the need to confuse. To understand her is to destroy her. Is she still set on luring us into a black hole, some newborn universe where she can be a true god? Or is that a lie too? Am I on the verge of some discovery that threatens her? Jupiter is always straight above. At night, the whole sky is afire, tons of sulfur burning in the flux tube that connects Io to the Jovian pole. I burn my trash and the smoke drifts up forever. The radio howls like wolves. I am lonely. Camouflage. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. Meaning unclear. Perhaps simply a threat. We are hidden closer than you know. Personal notes knotted in a codex of hive gut. Now I'm hiding the truth from my own friend. I do not want to make them distrust the Vanguard, but I am sure that this warning is genuine and that it points to a threat in our own ranks. There are inflections to this logograph that speak of a killer hidden in plain sight. I must not become paranoid as Kwang Xuan did, but I think the warning is for me. I think the enemy wants me safe from my own kind so that I will continue to receive its messages and share them with my friend. Is that my true purpose? Am I only a conduit for their corruption? I am convinced that the absolute interdict upon knowledge of the darkness is misguided. We can understand the enemy without falling under its swing. If I can pass through darkness and return, so can others. Perhaps under my guidance. Perhaps I can be a teacher. Mara would be horrified if she knew, afraid for me. But my queen herself stole Oryx's power. Can communion with the Black Fleet be so much more dangerous? I planted the pineapples. They have already blossomed. The Golden Age agriculturalists must have tweaked them for growth and hardiness. Little purple thistles, they delight me. Anina asks after their health. I am suspicious of her. She is too eager to please. And who knows which faction that snooping ghost reports to. Was it hers? Falling. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. Another threat of imminent disaster. You declared a new golden age, and our enemy declares a second collapse. They imply it's already in motion. Alarming. Personal notes scored in hive leather with a knife. Free fall is indistinguishable from a stable orbit until you strike the ground. Are we already falling? Is our doom fixed? Have I missed the signs this time? I should ask Osiris. I should ask Ikora. I should ask my queen. I should conjure wretched Toland from the sea of streams and wring the truth from him. But would I be believed? There goes old Eris, they will say, howling about fingertips and revenge again. She is lonely, so she prophesies doom. Zavala would believe me, but he would also call me in for rest. Ikora would set me in a library and take care of me, and I would be too glad of it to leave. I cannot. I cannot. Even my queen knows that some secrets must be kept in solitude. She will understand. She trusts me. I look forward to sharing a meal together. Report by VanguardNet encrypted router. Contact. At last, another substantive message. The enemy's influence in our system may be more extensive than we realize. You must look for signs of its effect. Errors or crashes in vexed constructs. Eruptions of empowered or self-destructive hive sorcery. Newly created scorn, revels, and expeditions by the worshippers of the narcissist emperor. Personal notes shaved into quartz with a surgical stylus. Our enemies are turning to the darkness. The Red Legion is broken, the Almighty destroyed. The remaining Cabal will either join Callus's death cult or seek his daughter Keitel. And the Fallen, we have driven them to the edge of survival, turned them against each other. How many will look to the whirlwind for an advantage over their rivals? By pushing them from the light, we have groomed more supplicants for the darkness. We are in an arms race. If we do not learn to use our greater enemy's power, our lesser enemies surely will. I confronted Anina about the strange ghost. It was not hers, she protested. I asked her why she had been so generous to me, so eager to please. She confessed that she had come on behalf of her fire team, guardians who were champions in the Drifters' strange games. They wished to learn the ways of the darkness itself, to descend into the underworld like ancient Inanna and return. They want what I have learned here. How easily they might be corrupted. And yet, it thrills me to know that I would not be alone in my work. I sent her away. I fear the Witch Queen's spies. The pineapple blossoms are still growing. But now, I stare at the purple flowers in the black soil, and I wonder about poison. I am no longer hungry. Right, that was the singular exegete. Exegete? Latin. There should be previously on Destiny. Exegete, exactly. Right, so the singular exegete was probably some of the last things to happen during the season of Arrival. If we go down here to season of Arrivals, it kind of tells you some more about the context of season of Arrivals, which ended on November 10th, 2020. I think the last piece here was from June or September 2020. Yeah, it's June 2020. But the key things that happen in the season of Arrivals, and which are implied in the singular exegete, is that Eris is somehow receiving messages from the darkness or an entity in the darkness through this tree of silver wings, which she has kind of camped close by. So as it says here, the pyramids arrive. Eris translates broadcast from the pyramid, which is, we read her notes on those broadcasts. I think in game you would have actually heard some of the broadcasts and some of the messages from the pyramid. And this expansion was the one that led up to the Beyond Light expansion itself, in which we go to Europa. So Season of Rivals is ancient power lies on Europa. The Beyond Light expansion was also when the character Guardian first gained the powers of the darkness, stasis, and that's part of the ancient power that is on Europa. So there's not too much details about Season of Arrivals here. But you can see here Eris with her Shower Darkness close to the Tree of Silver Wings. This was part of a cutscene in game, I think. Here we see on the edges the darkness arriving before us again. This is Titan and a pyramid ship on Titan. This is Mercury and a pyramid ship on Mercury. Tree of Silver Wings. Eris again. So part of the season was that these locations, Titan and Mercury, were removed from the game for complicated reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. And that's why the pyramid ships are kind of like this on those locations. But again, so it's very fun to read this and know which pieces of lore comes after, because of course some of the stuff in the Witch Queen, especially the Hidden Dossier and Cora's writings on the Darkness, kind of hail or at least take some inspiration from Eris's contact with the Darkness during Season of Arrivals, and Eris's subsequent contact with Stasis, because she has been molded by darkness so much. And in Beyond Light, one of the first things we see is that Eris kind of contacts the darkness. Let's see, there should be this one though. Maybe not. Whatever. There was a good cutscene of this somewhere. But this is the Beyond Light cutscene, which shows lots of stuff, including this thing. Right. I don't know if there's much more to say about Season of Arrivals. Also, to note is that this website hasn't been updated since like 2020 or something, because it doesn't have Witch Queen on it. So it's unfortunate, but previous Dawn Destiny discontinued. Okay. The other part is, of course, so the darkness was saying something about an enemy. The enemy was, in fact, and indeed, Savathun in the guise of Osiris. So Savathun had disguised herself as this character right here, Osiris, and was walking amongst us, the players, at that point, for, I think, a whole expansion cycle or something like that. So that was the enemy, as it says here. Right. Let's now go to something more slightly different, just some planning. Here, because now we are done with my shortlist. I might see if we can scroll through some of these today, just have a small look at them. But I think especially Shattered Suns is a lot better if you have visited or know some of the in-game story regarding the Witch Queen raid, where Mr. Big Man Volk is inside his pyramid. And likewise for the Dark Future and Legacy's Lament is become a lot better once you have some of the backstory for some of the characters in the game. And they might need a bit more introduction than just reading them straight up. Similar for the Captain's Log, which ties in with the Glaken Volatus exotic mission, which is back in the game right now on the rotation, and might be worth doing at some point as well. I think let's take a look at Ecdysis and Letters from Eris, and maybe some of these others straight away, because Singular Exegete wasn't actually that long. So we are now back here. So the ones I wanted to take a look at were Ecdysis, just here. Letters from Eris, just here. So keep in mind that we are moving slightly back in the timeline with Exegete and Letters from Eris. And that might be, yeah, something to keep in mind. So Exegete, let's take a look. Okay, this is what, okay. If we Google Exegete, the process of shedding the old skin in reptiles or casting off the outer cuticle in insects and other arthropods. So we follow, at least at the beginning, the story of Nasia Sarwar on a ship of the Exodus class. So she, this is back from, I think, Golden Age Destiny. Yeah, Golden Age Destiny with the Exodus ships, which are these large generation ships that were heading out from our solar system in different directions to try to be colony ships. And it just so happens that one of these ships was caught exactly as the darkness arrived, and because of some weird interaction between a pulse from the Traveler and the darkness, they created the pocket universe where the Awoken were created. So all the people who were on this specific ship became Awoken, and they awoke in the distributary. We're following Nasan Sarwar, or Nasia Sarwar, renaming herself Nasan Ar, as she becomes Awoken. She gets to know Shir Ido. And it kind of tells some of the story of the Awoken. But I think it tells it from a slightly oblique angle. It's not as clear as some of the other Awoken stories. And it might be beneficial to have read the other, or some of the other Awoken stories before reading this one, would be my guess. So here, she's down in the crowd, and Marasov tells the Awoken about the dying world they abandoned, that Mara wants to go back to the real world and out of their pocket universe, asking for all the volunteers to go back to the real world, kind of. So what actually happens here is that our character Nasanad leaves the Awoken. She goes to Earth, becomes a hunter there, and is killed by a band of Risen. Risen was the kind of Dark Age name for Guardians. Like, early Guardians weren't called Guardians yet, but when she gets resurrected, the ghost calls her Orin. And then Orin goes on a little journey. She has a little character arc. Stuff happens to Orin. Among things, becoming a wanted guardian, a skilled guardian, etc., etc. Meeting another Awoken at some point. But of course, because she's a guardian, she doesn't remember the Awoken. So, yeah. Orin and her band go to the last safe city, where the Traveler is. She talks to some other Awoken non-Guardians who remember all the Awoken stuff. And then Orin convinces this other Awoken to break the law and smuggle her and Gol beyond the Bessian outpost. She's determined to understand why she revolted against her own people. They're intercepted. And Shiraido is part of Shiraido was Marasov's closest confidant, but also a friend of our main character Nasanad, now Orin. Shiraido recognizes Orin because Orin is Nasanad, but Orin doesn't remember Shir because Orin has no memories. And here it is revealed that Mara and Nasanad or Orin together had some, or maybe Mara is currently spinning these plans. Why do I leave? You wish to be my emissary, and you banish me for it. That doesn't sound like something you do. Mara smiles frankly. No. They have several more conversations. The revelations are absolute in their terror, or has never felt such a profound sense of schism. And Orin's case is an unnamed fugitive of the Crown's choosing. She returns to Earth. Everyone knows the Pilgrim Guard, which becomes the Vanguard in the city, still called the Last Safe City. They are deliriously happy together, centuries pass, yada yada yada. On the day that Shiraido dies, she receives a call from Marasov. I would ask for my boon, the Queen says with a shaking voice. It is the first time she dares to trust a guardian. And Mara charges Orin with the task of finding out who killed Shiraido. The search sends her deep into a sublunar cavern where she finds no enemies, but instead clouds of steam and a half-man with grasping tentacles where his face should be. Forgive them, he rasps as she crushes his windpipe in her fist. Who? She snarls, tightening her grip. His face writhes with growing urgency. Reminding herself that she came here for answers first and vengeance second, she pushes him away. He staggers, steadies, reaches into his drawers to draw something out. Orin! Gaul once, but she's already seen it. She hefts her warhammer and strikes him hard in the chest. It's like hitting a ball off of a tee. There is no resistance. He caroms off of dew boulder with a sickening crunch. That is his spine. He will never stand straight again, and as he hits the ground, a tarnished silver jar slips from his fingers. The sound echoes as it bounces away into the dark. Orin uses a hunting knife and brute strength to puncture the jar's dented lid. She turns it over and pours a thin stream of pale grey powder into her gloved palm. Dust returns. It ever returns. The man trickles easily. She looks up and he is gone. So the dust of silver jar of dust, is something that was part of one of the other things here. If we go back far enough, Mara holds her silver jar to her forehead. Orin holds her silver jar to her forehead. She carries in her hands a small silver jar. A dent has crushed its lid. It's impossible to open. So she kind of awoke with a silver jar. And then this thing, the half-man with grasping tentacles where his face should be, has a tarnished silver jar. The man chuckles weaselly. He's gone. So this man is, of course, if you play Destiny, Xur. This guy, the half-man with tentacles for a face. He is just this kind of mysterious figure that has, as it says here, he's an agent of the Nine, and his most famous line from in-game is, "My will is not my own." But he is a purveyor of exotic wares, I guess is the way to call him. Orin begins to experience waking hallucinations. Immaterial strangers speak to her in unrecognizable languages. When she reaches for Minachi, she feels as if she is falling into him, being pulled through him, sieved into smaller and smaller scarves of some iron stuff that he breathes into the blood of his bones. When she continues her hunt for the queen, she feels a crushing fist around her windpipe. There is something she must say, but she has no words to say it. There is somewhere she must go, someone she must be. It is not horrifying, though she thinks it should be. Instead, it is unspeakably lonely. She tries to describe her number-color synesthesia to gold, to Namchi, to Mara. She sees green and thinks 9. She reads purple and tastes 9. They tell her to stop, to rest, to be still. There have been other breakthroughs, other messages. The 9 are known. She cannot. She hunts for the man with the writhing face. She hunts for herself. On the day that Namchi dies, no one can reach her or Gaul, though they do try. She does not find out for months. On the day she meets Wu Ming, she is on Bamberga. She has just left a Gensum lab. She has just read a transcript of Namchi's last words. Her hands are shaking. She feels nauseous. She feels she can see herself in third person, tottering to a safe place to sit and cry. Wu Ming is a bonfire in the darkness, and she crawls toward his warmth. Wu Ming, if we try to, let's try this. If we just get the first translation that it offers. It means nameless, anonymous, or sometimes stranger, but nameless is the name. This character is called Nameless, and it is, of course, a name for the Drifter. So Wu Ming is, as it says on the bottom here, the Drifter, also called Todd, also called Regent Hope, Eli, Germain, Wu Ming, Roguelite Bear, Rat, as affectionately called so by Eris in later days, or Peasant by Emperor Callus. So she meets Wu Ming. Wu Ming is ravenous for her stories of the 9. He asks whether she's met them, whether they can give a man power, whether they know a way out of the solar system. Orin cannot answer any of his questions, but she cannot keep her own stories down. She is sick of them. They came out in a compulsive belly stream, and when she's emptied, she talks of herself, of her grief, of her restlessness, how she feels the most alive in the empty spaces between blinks, how she feels she is a snake perpetually sloughing away its skin, except this last molt is all wrong, and she's caught in the ghost throat of her old self. Wu Ming leaves his questions by the wayside as he is drawn inexorably into the gravity well of her desperate honesty. Her confessions lower his defenses. He talks of himself, of his fear, of his loneliness, how he feels he is one fingernail away from plummeting into an abyss, how he feels vicious resentment every time he is brought back from the dead. He never asked for the gift of the light. They make excuse after excuse to meet again. Every conversation is colored by excavated truths. Every day they feel they will reach some bedrock that will break them to pieces. It is as frightening as it is intoxicating. Lies, lies, lies. He's not Wu Ming. He's a man named Eli, a man named Regent Hope, a man named the Drifter. He's not vulnerable. He's a paranoid conman. He's a dead-hearted murderer. He's a cowardly liar. He's not her friend. He's waiting to make his move. He has always been waiting to make his move. She is stupid. She is so stupid to have fallen for his lies. She cannot mend this. She leaves, and so too does the light. The severance is absolute in its terror. She has not felt such a profound sense of schism. It can be mended. Orin is not your name. On the day she leaves to find the 9, the Technians name her Orin the Lost. She raids a storeroom in the Vestian outpost, stuffing into her knapsack digital schematics for a Phaeton scanner, a jade coin, several bundles of dried queen's foil, and nothing more. She goes beyond the heliopause. It is a long walk, a sudden death. She sheds herself and emerges anew in the glimmering scales of her old lives. An immigrant, a translator, an emissary, a hammer of judgment. They expect to claim her will, but she clenches it a little tighter. Her gifts can end wars. So, what this tells is the story of Orin, also known as the Emissary, who becomes this emissary of the 9. This is how they are presented in game as this awoken 9-tainted figure. The 9 are a group of enigmatic entities affiliated with the planets of the solar system. They control unknown space, a mysterious realm whose nature is poorly understood. And these kinds of symbols. The 9 symbols are also part of a dungeon released. Of course, I don't remember its name. Dungeon. Sorry. But you'll see Orin at the end of... So here we have a cutscene of Orin on the right here meeting Wuming, and in the on the back here you can see a shoulder. That shoulder is the actual current emissary, or Orin's shoulder. They are massive. But you can see here as well, the emissary meets the drifter. After Orin became the emissary, not just Orin anymore. I'm a bit annoyed that there is not more screenshots of the emissary being absolutely gigantic. But okay, that was that story. It was a bit convoluted, but it was pretty good. So here, letters from Eris. As it says here, they're just kind of notes on different stuff, I think. Sent from Eris to different people. This one intended for Queen Marasov, telling the story of Eris again. What is also, I think, in some place, I don't remember exactly where, but it was also in some place insinuated is that some of these letters were not from Eris, but from possibly Savathun, possibly another darkness entity writing under the guise of Eris. So, yeah. Then again, regarding stasis, is letters from Eris about stasis, which is the new power gotten during Beyond Light. 2 different characters, again talking about like Eris's mindset during Beyond Light, and how she kind of grows, what her philosophy is, etc., etc. Yeah. So, to all Guardians, discontent and skepticism permeate our allies and corrode our bonds. I am certain the rumors that circulate in the tower have found their way to you. Erismorn has been compromised, corrupted by the darkness. You and I know that could not be further from reality. You have stood by me, and we have been empowered, enlightened, and vivified. We have struck a balance. There is much that you are already aware of. You have seen how the darkness does not seek to subjugate as the light does not. They are tools. They are choices. They are made to be commanded and controlled. This is clear now. Along the path, you have been the only consistent allies worth trusting. I have my doubts about the stranger, and similarly the drifter. If they fail us, or worse, attempt to deceive us, we will have to continue on without their support. I do not fear that possibility. As long as we are together, we will be unstoppable. We can recover what has been stolen from us and procure retribution for that which is irreparable. We finally have control over the darkness and can use it against those who seek to destroy us. All of us now have the means to persevere and win this war, and the Cabal insurrection will be thwarted before it's allowed to endanger. The Vex will be banished to some forgotten time, the fallen will surrender or perish, and what of Savathun and her forces? They will bend until they break into decomposing pieces of refuse. Stasis provides an answer to where we have fallen short previously. Use this power, with me, to abolish our foes and prevent what our forebears could not. The next collapse is here, and we must abandon our previous misconceptions of right and wrong. You are aware of the stakes, so I will leave you with a word of warning. The new collapse did not come from the darkness all alone. It comes from all around, it comes from within. The assault has already begun. This campaign is far from over, so there is much to prepare for. We will be the masters of our fates once more. I cannot wage this war alone. I need you, all of you. I know what I ask, for you to face the unknown. Use forces beyond our comprehension. This is a world of uncertainty, yet it remains clear. Holding the darkness with righteous intent will be our true salvation. Will we unite? Again, this is another thing which it is unclear whether it was actually Eris who wrote it, or whether it was Savathun in the guise of Eris, or even someone else. Because this is very, very different language from the language that Eris used in the singular exegete notes that we read just previously, right? Wielding the darkness with righteous intent will be our true salvation is not the conclusion that you might take from her talking earlier about any activity can be taken up with righteousness, or like even the agents of the darkness believe in the righteousness of their cause, etc., etc. Right? So again, unclear. It's not necessarily an unreliable narrator; it's an unreliable source. Right? We don't know that the attributed source is the real source for this writing. Okay. Beneath the Endless Night, I don't remember how good it was. I don't remember the exact story that was telling, but it is in general about the fallen co-living with humans under the last safe city in the time that it was under an endless night as the Vex were doing stuff to it. Shattered Suns is really good, actually. It deals with one of the raid bosses and the backstory of one of the raid bosses. It might be worth reading. Triage. Triage talks about Zavala and Safiya. So the story of Zavala and Safiya was generally told quite well in the cutscene in-game, but this retelling, Triage, is also quite good. But I don't think it's quite good enough to warrant its own reading. And then the future stuff I haven't really read. So I might do Shattered Suns next week, or I might do something else. But I think that will be it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And again, more stuff next week. See you then.